What's going on, guys? We're here to do our second video in the series for our Patriot Javelin slug tests. We're going to be using our gel today, and if you haven't seen the first video, you can check that out on the channel. We had pretty impressive results, excellent expansion all the way out to 96 yards, no issues. And today we're switching it up. We're going with the 26 grain slugs. We're going to be using the FX Impact MK2 power plenum. I've got the slug power kit in there, which is the lighter valve spring and the pin probe and the hammer weights. I've got the 700mm slug liner A, and we'll be checking our velocities here in a bit. We're going to check our speeds at the muzzle, at 50 yards, and at 96 yards. And we're also going to take a look at the expansion at each of those distances. Each time we move out the chronograph, we're going to move out the gel and put a few rounds into it. And we're going to see how the decrease in speed affects our expansion in the gel. So at the end of this video, there'll be a little chart that I'll have drawn out, and that's going to show the speed at the given distance and the expanded slugs, how much they expanded at that distance. So what you can do, you don't have to be shooting this setup to have these results work for you. You just need to know what your gun is shooting them at. Then you can match that up with what one of the distances that I shot at will be, and you can kind of expect those type of results whenever you're shooting something for expansion. Let's go ahead and get set up. I'm going to shoot, for starters, I'm going to shoot 3 5-shot groups at 50 yards just to show that these slugs are accurate. I was pretty happy with the accuracy on these. These ones right off the bat were a little bit easier to tune for me personally in the impact than they were the 23 grain. The 23 grain slugs, you might have better results with the pellet liner. I know some people are shooting them with the pellet liner, but for the 26 grains, I had pretty good results with the slug liner A. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll set up the target and we'll switch to the shooting. We got the target set up down there at 50 yards. I'm going to take 2 5-shot groups just to confirm that we are shooting accurately, and then we'll shoot over to the chronograph and see what our speeds are at our muzzle. So let's see what we can do for some groups. Okay, let's walk down there and check those groups out. My camera's turned off. That was 2 5-shot groups. I always try to shoot multiple groups because sometimes it takes the gun a little bit to warm up. It's a little bit cold out here right now. It's probably in the high 40s. And I think the temperature does affect the gun. And once you start shooting it, it kind of warms up a bit and the groups or your point of impact will change. So let's walk down there and we'll scope out that 2-shot group, those 2 5-shot groups, and I'll show you guys a target for the tuning that I've been doing so far. Okay, so as you guys can see, I have been working on tuning this thing. I only have 200 slugs. So I can't, shoot through, it might take 200 just to get the best tune. But like I said in the beginning of this video, this is a slug expansion test. So we have this group right here, which is not much bigger than my thumb. We had 1 flyer right there. And then we have this group up here, which we had 5 shots. It might have had a flyer. I'm not sure. You guys will probably be able to see there, but that's easily covered by my thumb. So that's pretty good for 50 yards. They are grouping. Let's go ahead and set up the chronograph and shoot it from basically point blank, and we'll see what our speeds are. Okay, I've got the chronograph set up point blank. We're going to shoot, say, 3 to 5 shots until we get a consistent number, just so we have a baseline of what our speed is for our first test. Okay, that looks pretty consistent right there. These are going pretty fast. We'll talk about the benefits of starting out with a higher muzzle velocity for this test towards the end, but basically it allows more people to figure what the expansion would be for their setup. So let's go ahead and get set up with our muzzle test and put up our gel, and let's shoot it with a couple shots and see what it does. All right, we've got the ballistics gel set up just a few feet from the muzzle. We're going to take at least 2 shots so we can have it controlled to see how much the expansion is at this velocity and basically this distance. The distance isn't so much as important as the velocity. Oh, gel down. Let me pause it, clean it off, and we'll take a reset. I've got the gel block cleaned up. Just in case you were wondering, it was easy enough to wash it off with cold water. It didn't crack or nothing like that. But I'm going to take another step back for this shot, just so I don't hopefully knock it down into the dirt again. But let's take one more shot, just so we have you know, kind of an average test, so we can see if there's any difference between the two. So let's see what happens. Okay. Not bad. We set the gun down. Okay, so let's take a look at our results here. We definitely have what I'm going to start calling the cone of shock. Spray it all the way out. Let me get this camera out of the way. Okay, so we can definitely see good penetration, definitely got some expansion. I can see it almost starred. Each one of these little points here and down there, those are all shrapnel that kind of went off on their own direction. Let me hold it here so you guys can see what the entrance is like. Definitely created that cone. Now, this is just the muzzle test, so I'm curious to see how much the energy drops off when we get out to a distance. But as you guys can see here, it definitely got excellent expansion. We'll measure the penetration towards the end. But good results, good start. So let's move it out to 50 yards, and we'll repeat this test first through the chronograph and then through the target, through the gel. All right, next up, we've got the 50-yard chronograph test. So let's put 3 to 4 rounds through there, and let's see what kind of numbers we get. All right, let's swap out our chronograph with the ballistics gel, and let's see what kind of expansion we get at that distance. All right, up next is the gel test. I've got it set up at 50 yards on the dot. We're going to take 3 shots and see what our results are. All right, there's our 3 shots. I think the one skimmed off the top, but that's okay because we got 2 good shots in there. So let's go check it out. Okay. Let me set up my camera so it doesn't fall. All right, so our results here. I skimmed one right across the top, and man, it chunked it out quite a bit. That one went off into oblivion. So, coming in from this angle, we have our muzzle control test. Here is our 50-yard test. So, similar results. It definitely fragmented. It broke up. You guys can see those the cone, shock cone there. You can definitely see the damage that it caused. Significant. I'm not sure how well the camera picked up the audio, but you can definitely hear from my position how loud it was. It whapped the heck out of it. So we still got pretty good penetration after the initial expansion. And I've got a tape measure here. Let's just go ahead and measure this now. So we've got about 5 1/4 inches of penetration, but our expansion occurred within a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch in, and it's already started expanding. At 1 inch, it was at full expansion just about, and the projectile, the shrapnel was just traveling at 1.5 inches, 2 inches. We'll call it 2 inches. It was already done fragmenting. So that's exactly what you want for a pest control type slug. You know, it's going to open up quick, causes a lot of trauma or damage, and you still got some decent pass through on the majority of the slug there. So let's go ahead and set this stuff out to 96 yards, and we'll repeat the chronograph test followed by the ballistics test. All right, I've got the target moved down to 96 yards. We're gonna take a few shots over the chronograph just so we can document our speed, and then we'll swap it out for the gel. Okay, let's go down there, and I'll go down there, swap out the chronograph for the gel, and we'll shoot into that next. All right, I got the gel set up, our gel block set up at 96 yards. I'm gonna shoot at it several times to make sure we get a couple good hits in it, and we'll go check it out and do our comparison tests. All right, those last two look a little bit high, but I'm pretty sure we got what we needed. So let's go check it out. Quick overview, this is where we're shooting from. That right there is our 96-yard target, just so you guys can see the distance. So let's walk out there and see what we got. Okay, camera is intact. me get this out of the way. Okay, so I chunked out 2 of them. Sorry, trying to get the camera out of the way. So I did chunk out 2 of them on the top, but I did get 2 hits on the bottom that were pretty solid. This gel's a little bit more difficult to see through because of how thick it is. But not bad. Our expansion wasn't quite as explosive. We actually caught one right there. Sorry guys, trying to see for myself as well. It wasn't quite as explosive, but we have a good cavity right there where it first opened up. And you can see the trailer there. Let me get a better angle here. It's hard to see it with that chunk on the top taking everything out. But luckily that was not the first shots, because we could still see the first 2. So still fragmented and peeled. I don't see any shrapnel in the earlier part, but if we look through the top, it looks like it's still expanded within 3/4 of an inch of entering. So that's still what you want. That's great. So let me take these back over to the bench. We'll take a look at them in the sun, and then we'll start dissecting them. Okay, so here's our block that we shot up close. Our 50 yard is on this side over here. I'm sorry, our muzzle is over here. This was our muzzle test, and you can see that definitely expanded. You know, those are shrapnel that flew through there. If you happen to be shooting these that fast, you know, at 50 yards, that's what kind of results you're going to be looking at. Over here on this side, we have our 50 yard results, and we still have this lovely cone of shock on both of these. That's definitely going to cause trauma, tissue damage. You know, and another thing to take note is how fast it expanded. That's about 3/4 of an inch, half an inch it took for that thing to expand. There we go. You can see that cavity that it created there, that temporary cavity. So we still got good penetration through the rest of the slug down here. You know, it carried through quite a bit, but definitely some good results there. They're definitely going to be excellent for pest control or stopping anything that you don't want to go very far. So let me grab the longer range block, the 96 yard block, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, this is our longer distance block, 96 yards, and we have 2 good ones here. And you can see where this top one fragmented and peeled back. We got a good wound channel up front on both of these. Sorry, my hand there. You can see where it expanded, and it's hard to tell on camera. Yeah, there you can kind of see it. It created like a spiraling effect in there as it kind of cut the gel, and this top one did the same. So it definitely got there. You can kind of see it a little bit better. Sorry about the focus. There we go. You can see what I'm talking about, that path that it cut. So definitely some good results. You know, opened up, got good cavity. You know, this is what you want to see, is fast expansion. You don't want to, well, for small game you do. If you're shooting larger animals, something with more heft, you want a slug that's going to keep together, but it's going to carry more weight and carry more penetration. But this right here is perfect for small game. You know, it's going to definitely carry its energy downrange. So let's go ahead and take it to the bench, dissect it, and get some numbers written down. Alright guys, for this last segment, I kind of have to improvise. Something happened to the footage. It just didn't record right onto my memory card. So I'm going to have to kind of voice over for this last segment to wrap it up. What I wanted to go over was, for one, I got the ballistic coefficient listed up there, 0.0895. The listed ballistic coefficient for these slugs is right here on the back. And for once, I actually got a higher ballistic coefficient than what was listed, which is pretty surprising, but that's something to take note of. So they are, you know, pretty good aerodynamic projectile. Another thing to take note of here is the size of the fragments. On the slugs that I pulled out of the gel from the muzzle test, the fragments were a lot bigger. They were more like slivers. The ones from 50 yards and from 96 yards broke up into smaller pieces. And I'm not quite sure what that means for how it imparted the energy yet, but that's just something to take note of. So there's everything. There's all your information. You know, I let you guys take a look at this for a while and digest the information. Like I said in the beginning of the video, if you're not shooting these slugs at this speed, it's not a big deal. If you are shooting them, say at the same speed that I'm shooting them at 100 yards, then that's what your expansion is going to kind of be like. So this is like a reference guide as to what you can kind of expect for expansion on these slugs. And I'm sure, you know, these slugs are going to expand all the way down to in the 800 feet per second range, just like the 23 grain slugs did. So if you guys are curious about these slugs, give Utah Air Guns a call. Check out their website and get you some of these slugs. They're the only ones that have them in the United States, and they're a great price for a great expanding slug. And as long as your rifle shoots them, I don't think you can go wrong. So let's wrap it up right there. Thank you guys for watching. If I missed anything, or if you guys have any questions, just leave it down in the comment section, and I'll get back to you. I wanted to throw a quick shout out to a guy that makes this magazine holder. If you guys are curious about this, you can look it up on eBay. Just search FX Impact magazine holder, and they'll come up. He's got all kinds of different logos. He has this Mark II logo. He has the Punisher skull, a Spartan helmet. He has all kinds. Definitely worth giving a shot. You know, it's pretty handy to have this on the rifle. That way you don't have to carry your magazine around in your pocket. So definitely worth a try. You know, and check that out. The only place you can find those is on eBay, and again, just search FX Impact Magazine. So stay tuned for next week's video. I'll be putting one out every week, and thank you guys for watching.